Toto Wolff has had an issue with the Red Bull team ever since the controversial ending of the 2021 F1 season. He and Christian Horner may have managed to partly bury the hatchet from that season, but there's no illusion that the two are friends. One of Toto's biggest regrets in Formula 1 is letting Max Verstappen slip through his fingers and join Red Bull rather than Mercedes. With the huge amount of animosity between the two teams, Toto Wolff has been planning his revenge, and it all focuses around Max Verstappen. Helmut Marko has opened the door for Verstappen to leave, and despite Wolff's public 180 over his pursuit of the three-time world champion, it is definitely still on. Today, I'll talk about Toto Wolff's surprise statement about Max Verstappen and why, despite that statement, George Russell is at huge risk of losing his seat. Toto Wolff and Red Bull have a history that goes far further back than Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen's championship battle in 2021. In 2015, Max was snapped up from F3 to join Toro Rosso, Red Bull's second team at the time. It was a complete shock to F1, as at the time Verstappen was only 16 years old, meaning he couldn't legally drive on the road yet. He was 17 by the time he started his first race, taking the record as the youngest ever F1 driver, a record he'll hold forever as the FIA introduced the Verstappen rule afterwards, meaning you have to be 18 to get an FIA super license and participate in an F1 session. What was equally surprising was the fact he joined Red Bull. Jos Verstappen and Toto Wolff are close friends, and Mercedes were given a first look at Max. Toto was very impressed, but at the time didn't have a seat to offer Max, with Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton filling out his 2015 lineup. Under normal circumstances, he had time to wait as well. Max probably should have spent at least a season in F2, but when Toto told him he would have to wait, the Verstappens went elsewhere, and Red Bull didn't pass up on the opportunity. Toto has often said it is one of his biggest regrets in Formula 1, and he's always been on the lookout for an opportunity to take Max back. Toto and Jos have stayed close friends and are often seen together on race weekends. After Lewis Hamilton announced he would be leaving Mercedes earlier in the year, Toto hasn't stopped saying how much he wants Max, how bad things are for Max at Red Bull, and how bad the team dynamic is at Red Bull at the moment. His pursuit of the Dutch driver has been utterly relentless, and he's used the media as a tool to try and pry Verstappen out of Red Bull. However, in a shocking 180, Toto Wolff has shut down the possibility of trying to recruit Max Verstappen in the foreseeable future, with the Mercedes boss insisting that the team's focus is fully on their impending lineup of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Despite Verstappen having a contract up until 2028 with Red Bull, the rumours over a team swap only came to an end when Antonelli was announced as a Mercedes driver for 2025 during the Italian Grand Prix weekend. Since the announcement, Wolff has confirmed that the squad will now be entirely focused on their new pairing, rather than trying to chase Verstappen. What I appreciate in dealing with them, Verstappen's team, it's just very straightforward, Wolff explained at Monza. I don't flirt outside. I've always said it. I got maybe caught up by the whole situation of Hamilton leaving, but I've not entertained any discussion with any drivers when given it all from the team to make it a success. This is why all of our focus in the team is on George and Kimi, and that's what I also said. There's no discussion, there's no second thoughts about what we're doing in 2026, because now it's about 2024 and 2025. If flirting outside happens, then we'll know it at the same time. When we have those discussions, I've always been very open. If telling every journalist that will listen that Max should leave Red Bull and join Mercedes isn't flirting, then I'd hate to see what Toto's flirting actually involves. Mercedes only announced Antonelli after Max categorically said that he would be staying with Red Bull for 2025, though he's yet to commit beyond that, despite a contract that runs till the end of 2028. It was widely reported throughout the season that Mercedes had essentially offered Verstappen a blank check to come and replace Hamilton for 2025, something that Toto Wolff never denied. They were also willing to offer him as long a contract as he wanted. That was a particular surprise, considering they were only willing to offer Hamilton a one-year contract with the option of one more year. Perhaps it was Wolff's way of slamming the door behind Hamilton as he walked out. Taking Verstappen out of Red Bull to replace Hamilton would be the perfect revenge for Wolff as well. He could get his own back at Christian Horner, something he's wanted desperately since 2021, and he could say to Hamilton, "We don't need you, we have Verstappen instead." You can just imagine the Mercedes statement saying how proud they are to have the best driver in the sport at the moment, or something similar. They would make sure that everyone knew they thought Verstappen was an upgrade on Hamilton. Despite Toto now saying he's fully focused on George and Kimi for 2025, that is hardly the end of the story. George Russell's contract only runs until the end of 2025, and as good as he may be, Mercedes wouldn't have a second thought about replacing him if Verstappen was an option. Despite Max's contract, Red Bull have been unable to confirm that Verstappen will remain with the team past next season. Verstappen has hinted at times that he could even walk away from F1 before the expiration of his contract, given he is unhappy at various aspects of F1, but had previously declared he would be at the team for 2025. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko confirmed this, but tellingly was unable to give a firm commitment over Verstappen for 2026. Next year, he'll be driving for Red Bull Racing, Marko said when asked if Verstappen would be in the team for 2025 and 2026. But 2026 is so far away, and for now, our full focus is on the 2024 World Championship. So, while Max may be off limits for next season, and Toto has filled his lineup for now anyway, the chances of seeing Verstappen in a Mercedes in the near future have never been higher, especially considering the catastrophic collapse in performance at Red Bull over recent races. After the Italian Grand Prix, former Mercedes driver and World Drivers' Champion Nico Rosberg highlighted just how unsafe George Russell's position is at Mercedes, and how this is far from over. George is not safe at all because Toto still wants Max. He'll try again for 2026 because give up does not appear in Toto's vocabulary. If Max does become available, and I do think it's a possibility, then it's a shootout between George and Kimi next year. It's a lot of pressure on George, as he has everything to lose. He should be the one ahead at the team internally, because Kimi is 18 and he's completely new and in a full pressure situation, so it's not an easy situation for George. In response, Martin Brundle added, "Clearly Toto is hugely invested personally in Kimi, and with him making these overtures to Max, I think George will occasionally be looking over his shoulder, wondering where he stands." George Russell has had an excellent season so far. He's completely eclipsed Lewis Hamilton as the king of qualifying at Mercedes, finishing fastest on Saturday in 12 of the 16 Grand Prix qualifying sessions this season. His Sunday performances haven't quite matched up though, which is a worry for Mercedes. Toto Wolff has made it pretty clear that he sees Antonelli as the future of the Mercedes team. After Kimi crashed George's car in FP1 in Italy, Toto had his arm around Antonelli, a big smile on his face, clearly not too worried about the damage he'd done. He also has the memory of what happened with Max in the back of his mind. If Antonelli is a future world champion, and Mercedes do think he is, then Toto doesn't want to let another one slip through his fingers. It's a tough time to be George Russell. After the announcement that Hamilton was leaving, he must have finally thought it was his time to leave Mercedes. Then they offered a contract to Fernando Alonso. As a two-time world champion and one of the most respected drivers in the sport, Alonso would obviously come in and expect to beat Russell. Mercedes were just trying to get the best driver they could, but it sends a signal to George that Mercedes don't 100% trust him to get the job done in the Drivers' Championship. Alonso rejects the offer anyway, but then Mercedes go after Verstappen instead. It sends the same signal to George. Mercedes don't think he can get the job done. Then Max rejects them, so Mercedes starts hyping up Antonelli, talking about how good he is and how his testing times are some of the best they've ever seen. George's contract is up at the end of 2025. Verstappen is available according to Red Bull. Jos and Toto are best buddies. It isn't looking good for Russell, despite Toto saying he isn't flirting with other drivers. Can you see a situation where George Russell is still at Mercedes in 2026? Or should he be talking to Red Bull already about a straight driver swap with Verstappen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.